Let's make this delicious spinach and cheese quiche. First things first, I have my oven set to 350 degrees and I'm going to pop my deep dish pie shells right into the oven. I'm going to let them cook for just about 7 to 10 minutes. You don't want them to get too brown. So while my pie shells are browning, I'm going to go ahead and start to prep my veggies. So I have a large onion here and I'm also going to mince up about 6 cloves of garlic. Now this recipe that I'm making is going to make 2 deep dish quiche and you'll actually have a little bit of the custard left over to make probably another small, maybe 6-inch one. So when I type the description, I'm going to put the recipe for a single batch. All right, so just keep that in mind. The recipe will be for a single batch. So my onions diced, I'm smashing my garlic and just going to mince it up. And then once both of these are ready, we're going to start to saute all of our veggies. So I'm getting a nice fine mince on that garlic. It's looking good, and that's what it looks like. All right, so we're going to heat our skillet over medium heat, and I'm going to add in some olive oil. I don't want the garlic or the onion to burn, so I'm not going to cook it on too high of a temperature. Medium to medium high is generally perfect. So let's go ahead and add in our onion and then our garlic right to that pan. And you can see it starts to sizzle right away. That pan was nice and hot. And here comes our garlic coming in next. And once everything's in, of course, we just give it a good stir. I usually allow the onion and garlic to cook for just about a minute or two before I add in my baby spinach. So just give it some time to start to cook, kind of season up that pan, start to soften up a little bit because, you know, spinach cooks a lot quicker. So give all of this a good stir. It's smelling so good already and looking delicious. As soon as it hits that pan, you know that garlic starts to permeate the room. It smells good. All right, so after about a minute or two, you can see they're starting to get soft. Onions are starting to get translucent, which means you can kind of see through them a little bit. And hopefully you can see a good view. I try to give it a little bit closer for you. And we're going to go ahead and add in our baby spinach. Now, I'm going to add in 2 bags because, like I said, I am making 2 deep dish pies. And spinach cooks down to next to nothing. You all know how spinach or any type of greens, they just cook down a lot. So we're going to add the spinach to our pan. And then I'm going to season it with just a little bit of salt and pepper. It seems like a lot, but you all will see how much it cooks down. Like, it's going to be a little bit. So it'll be just enough for the pies. All right, so make it fit. Making it fit. There we go. And like I said, I season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. You can do nature seasoning. You can do garlic salt. It's totally up to you. And as it cooks, you just want to stir your spinach up periodically just so that everything cooks evenly and it just begins to wilt down. I can eat it just like this. Spinach, garlic, and onion is good with me with a little bit of lemon juice. It's always a good thing. All right, so there's some pepper. Add as much or as little as you like. It's totally up to you. And let's start to stir. And you'll notice this process doesn't take long at all. And I don't put a lid on it because I don't want to create too much steam and too much water. Spinach has enough liquid in and of itself as it cooks down. So I don't really put a lid on it. I just let that heat take care of it and it'll wilt down on its own. Now, if you wanted to use frozen spinach, you could. Generally, what I do with frozen spinach, I'll saute my onion and garlic and then I will thaw the frozen spinach and just squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible and mix it with that onion and garlic. So you can definitely do that too if you're unable to find fresh spinach or if it's less expensive. You know, either way, it definitely does work. Just make sure you squeeze out that liquid if you're using frozen spinach. All right, so we're just going to keep on stirring, keep on cooking. And I'm doing this in real time just to show you about how long it takes, just a few minutes. And you can kind of see the bottom is already starting to wilt. There we go. See how it's starting to wilt down? It's a cooking. We are getting there, I promise. There we go. It's cooking down. And all of that spinach that was falling all out the pot, look how little it's cooked down to. So this is what I'm saying. Spinach, it seems like a lot, but you all know if you're not eating it raw, if you're actually going to cook it, it's definitely going to cook down to 1/3 probably of what you started with. So don't be alarmed. And I don't have a lot of liquid in the bottom of the pan either. So that's another thing. Like I said, I didn't put a lid on it to create too much steam. So our spinach is looking divine. It smells really good. I want to eat it just like this. I love spinach. And in about another minute, I'm going to go ahead and pull it off the stove. And let me give you a close-up of what our spinach is looking like. Still nice and green, still has a really pretty color. And just cook down. And our onions and garlic are cooked too. So here are our pie shells out of the oven. You can see they're very light brown. I don't want them to get too brown because they are going back in the oven for a good amount of time. So we're going to start to make our custard. So I'm going to go ahead and crack my eggs into the bowl. And like I said, I'm making a double batch. I'll put the recipe for the single batch in the description. And once all of my eggs are in the bowl, we're going to go in with some half and half and some seasonings. All right, so half and half is basically like a cream and milk type of mixture almost. So if you can't find half and half, you can do some milk and some heavy cream. And I'll put that variation in the recipe as well. All right, so give your eggs a good whisk just to make sure all of those yolks are broken up and everything is mixed well. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my half and half. And this is what the carton looks like when I get it from the store. So that's going to go right into my bowl. I'm going to measure out about 3 cups for a double batch. And then I'm going to season it up with some salt, a little bit of nutmeg, and a little bit of cayenne pepper. All right, that's what I'm seasoning. If you want to add other seasonings, feel free. You can definitely season it up even more. But those are the seasoning I use, and it comes out really, really good every time. So whisk all of that together. Make sure it is well combined. And it's looking real good like this. And like I said, this will make 2 deep dish and have a little bit left over. And the cheese of choice for me today is this Gouda cheese. You can use whatever cheese you like. You can use Monterey Jack, cheddar, whatever you like. And I also wanted to mention, if you wanted to add like crumbled bacon or shrimp or crab, you can definitely add that to your quiche as well. So that'll make a nice variation, or just keep it like a veggie one like this one. All right, so I put a little bit of Gouda cheese in the bottom of my crust. I always do that. And then I'm going to top that cheese with some of that spinach, onion, and garlic that we cooked down. Put that right on top of the cheese. And just spread it out as best you can. And I'm going to do that to both of my pie shells. And once I have the spinach divided between the two, that's when we're going to top it with that custard that we just whipped up. See how easy this is? It's so simple. All right, so our spinach is on. Make sure I got every drop. Then I'm going to whisk my custard a little bit more, and it's a close-up of what the bottom of the pie looks like right now. But I'm going to whisk my custard again, just because sometimes as it sits, it kind of, starts to separate a little bit sometimes. So I poured it into a measuring cup to make it easier to get it into the pie dish. And I'm just going to pour it right over top of the spinach and just let it settle a little bit. So I turned it around. I'm doing my other one. Just let it settle a little bit, because sometimes the custard will fill up to the top, but then once you add it, it kind of seeps down into the bottom. All right, so once it settles, sometimes I'll top it off a little bit, and then I'm going to add in more of that Gouda cheese right on top. And then I'm going to mix everything just a little bit. So I don't let the cheese just sit right on top, because if I do, sometimes it'll just burn. So I'll just use a skewer or some tongs or a spoon, whatever, and just lightly mix everything, letting that custard seep all the way down, getting that spinach all mixed in. It looks pretty too. It gives a nice little swirl. And this is looking good already. Like I said, this skewer works, pair of tongs works, a spoon, whatever you have. Do the same thing to the other one. It's a little bit of a closer look. And I'm being very gentle. I don't want to, be too rough with anything or poke too many holes in my pie crust or anything like that. Just trying to mix everything together just a little bit. But I'm not really going all the way down to that first layer of cheese. I'm leaving that layer kind of alone. All right, so these are looking divine. If you want to add a little bit more custard, if you think your pie shell can take a little bit more, I will add a little bit more. We're going to pop these in that 350-degree oven for about 35 to 45 minutes. You'll know when they're ready when you tap the pan and they don't jiggle and they look nice and golden brown, just like this. Guys, these look so good and smell So good. So after they're ready, I just remove them from the oven. Allow your quiche to rest for a little bit before you cut it. If you try to cut it right away, you might not get those clean cuts. So let it rest for a little bit and then give yourself a good slice. Serve it with whatever you like and enjoy. So hopefully you all give this recipe a try, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye, guys.